Hello everyone. Alright, it's time for my review of the Joseph L. Mankiewicz 1950 classic, All About Eve. In order to understand my film reviews, I refer you to my review of The Lost Weekend. That being said, I'll get into distributing the points now. So the first thing we'll examine is the plot. The plot here is very solid. It's the story of a young woman, Eve Harrington, played by Anne Baxter, and her rise through the ranks of the stage, from being just an observer to a big star. The film is very solid. The story comes around full circle, and for that reason, I give the plot 5 out of 5. I don't want to say too much about the plot, because when I first saw this film, I knew almost nothing about what was going to happen, and it blew me away. And I would recommend the same for any of you who have not seen it. The second thing we'll examine are the characters. The characters here are solid. The acting is very good. It's a great cast. Interesting characters. Each character gets enough screen time to be of particular interest. There's even a brief appearance by Marilyn Monroe in one of her earliest film roles. It's kind of amusing. But the characters here are really quite fascinating. None of the characters are very likable, but that's kind of the joy of the film, is once in a while it's refreshing to see characters that maybe aren't that likable, but I will say they are all well acted and they're all very interesting. So I give the characters 5 out of 5. The third thing we'll look at is the script. The script here is quite solid. My only complaint about the script is that some of the actors, when they speak their lines, they sound very written. Now, when you look at the script of a film, it's not so much of the words that's important, it's how do the actors say the words. And my only complaint of this film is that while the acting is solid, many of the things these characters say sound overly written. But regardless, it's a very good script and it's very solid. So I will give it a 4 out of 5. The next thing we look at is the depth. The depth in this kind of film refers to sort of the depth of the characters. I think the characters in this film are all universally fascinating, and it really gives us some insight into it, and even if you kind of read between the lines, you might find some interesting discoveries. Therefore, I give the depth 5 out of 5. The music here is also quite good. It's a very nice score. Now, it's not a very memorable score, but really can't penalize a film for having a score that's maybe not as memorable as something like Star Wars, because, well, let's face it, nothing could really get to that level. But the music here is quite nice. It's also really nice that during the emotional climax, not the end of the film, but the emotional climax of the movie, there is no music playing in the background, which is wonderful, because many old films were guilty of having music all the time, which could sometimes be distracting. But this movie does not succumb to that. The score is by Alfred Newman. Alfred Newman was always a wonderful composer, so I give the music 5 out of 5. Now the spectacle. This is not a movie that relies on a lot of spectacle. In terms of special effects, this is not that kind of movie. But I will say the camera work is quite lovely. Everything looks very nice. It's in black and white, but just the overall photographic look of the film is very nice. It's not particularly spectacular, but you can't really penalize a film for not having a huge amount of spectacle. What I will say is the spectacle that this film has works perfectly for this movie, and for that reason I give it a 5 out of 5. When we total everything up, it comes to 29 out of 30. My only complaint with the film is that some of the dialogue feels overly written, but everything else is very solid. If you have not seen this film, go and see it. I would say try not to read too much about it first, and just go into it and just be totally surprised, because I was, and I really enjoyed it. It is available on Netflix Instant Play, and I would say go check it out when you have the time. All About Eve, directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz. That's my review. Thanks. Bye-bye.